I've been playing an absolute ton of Spider Foes. For what started as a video to see if Carnage was any good after the changes, and has morphed into this is just the main thing that I'm playing now. I'm very, very excited to share it with you. So let's just hop into it. Here's the list that I'm playing overall. So if the reason that you're here is just to steal my list and go play it, absolutely go play it. If you're interested in how to play it, stick around. I'm going to walk you through each of the choices, and we're going to kind of tackle Spider Foes as a faction, why I've made the choices that I have. So let's start off with leaders. The only leader I'm playing is Green Goblin. This is really controversial amongst Spider Foes players, but let's start off with why I don't want to play Doc Ock and why I've kind of disliked Doc Ock 2 kind of since its inception. So Doc Ock 2 has a couple problems. His main one being that the guy just makes attacks and has a throw, and then has a strong leadership. Like, those are the things that he does. The character does not scale with power at all, the way that, like, every single foe in the entire game becomes much more dangerous with a stack of power on them. The dice math for his builder is that it's essentially a 6-die attack. In some ways it's better, in some ways it's worse than a 6-die attack, but 5-die double wilds is essentially a 6-die attack, which means his 4-cost spender is only 1 dice higher and gives up some of its absurd spike potential. So the character himself is equally dangerous on 3 power as he is on 10 power, which means that he's just kind of a potato to be attacked. He's just 12 health with like largely def 4, 443. The character just struggles to impact the game outside of walk, throw somebody off of a point, make a 6-die attack, or 5-die counting wilds. And I want a lot more out of my leader. Green Goblin, on the other hand, impacts the game from range. Range 4 attacks, especially range 4 energy attacks, are more important in the game than ever because of the proliferation of Shang-Chi, meaning that Goblin legitimately threatens to kill Shang-Chi the way that like Doc Ock never does, or Doc Ock struggles to. The leadership on Goblin, Oscorp weaponry, which is, if you're unfamiliar, if your opponent rolls a block, in the 3rd step of modified dice, you can pick up a success of theirs and make them reroll it. So they have to like confirm like their first block of the round that matters. This leadership seems to cause a lot of foes players self-inflicted psychic damage, because even though the leadership is incredibly mathematically strong, using your once per turn leadership and having it do nothing causes a lot of players to just like freak out and think that the leadership is bad. It's not. It's mathematically better than Pierce. Until you get to like, or mathematically better than Wild Pierce, I should say. Until you get to like 7 or 8 dice, and then Wild Pierce becomes better. It's just much more likely to trigger. You get to flip the switch when you know that it matters. The leadership is strong mathematically. Just like, trust me, maybe I'll put up some like 2 5-die attack comparisons here. So if you look at the 2 5-die comparisons, Oscorp beats it by like 3 percentage points until you get above 3 hits, and then the thing holding you back is literally how many hits you rolled. It has nothing to do with how many blocks they rolled. So 82 or 83 to get 1 hit through versus 80 on Wild Pierce, 63 to get 2 through versus 61 to get versus Wild Pierce. So it's like, it's just ever so slightly better than Wild Pierce. And as the defense dice go up, the Oscorp gets better because they're more likely to have a block and it's more likely to be relevant. It's also good into cover, whereas like it's kind of like they don't have cover because they have to re-roll their cover die, which means they have to naturally roll their cover, which is almost the same as ignoring cover once per turn. But anyway, the other reason that I like Goblin is Goblin, on his flip side, can do lots of damage, and that Oscorp weaponry increases the amount of damage the team deals, which Carnage gets a lot of benefit from, and a lot of the characters get a lot of benefit from, as well as increasing the power generation. So like a lot of the reason that people are on the Doc Ock leadership is for the additional power. Goblin leadership, by making your strikes better, does help power generation. It's like 5/8 of a power every turn, which obviously isn't 1 power every time, the first time I'm attacked, which is 1 power every turn that I'm attacked. But I think that Goblin just fits better with the playstyle that I want to go for. And then Goblin also has traps. And the benefit of traps versus, like the benefit of like Trick or Treat over like Doc Ock's throw, which if they're throwing terrain can be like fairly comparable. They both throw up to size 3 terrain, is that through clever card play and how some of our characters work, it can let other characters chip in on turns where the character doing the throw is not activating. So like you can do things like play Carnage Rules and walk a character into a Goblin trap and get the throw on Carnage's turn, compressing more damage into a single activation window, which is what Goblin is all about. Goblin is all about increasing damage, whereas Ock is a lot more about accessing your kit and keeping bad conditions off of you. So that's why we're playing Carnage and why we're not playing Doc Ock. We'll get to the end here, and there is this is a very strong 9 set of characters with one character that's kind of on the fringe in one slot that can kind of be a lot of different things depending on the flavor that you want. And so if you want to try Doc Ock in this list, I wouldn't begrudge you that. But I really think that for Doc Ock to be useful, you really need to be using both sides of the leadership. I really think the condition side of the leadership needs to be churning out value for you for him to be relevant. And a lot of the shock has left the meta with Crimson Dynamo not running around. There's less Incinerate running around because Demons is gone. So, and then the only people that really do slow are Web Warriors. And so Doc Ock seems like a counter to Web Warriors, except that Green Goblin has archenemy Peter Parker, which means that Spectacular Spider-Man gets just deleted by Green Goblin, making Green Goblin still a better model into that matchup than Doc Ock. Plus Goblin has compression, and Ock is just a potato that has to like walk, walk, throw. So I think everywhere that you would want to play Doc Ock leadership, I think Green Goblin is largely better. Green Goblin is also like one of the coolest models in the game because his design is that he's a totally different character on the backside, which can lead people to like really bad feels when Goblin gets spiked out of nowhere, because the only thing really protecting him is Def 4-7 health, and it's pretty easy for lots of people to attack his Def 3. And so you can find yourselves in like awkward positions where Goblin is hiding behind a size 3 piece of terrain, hoping that if somebody comes in, he'll throw the 3 piece of terrain at them, and that will help him soften them up or like discourage them from coming in. And then somebody takes a random 5-die at him and it spikes him off the table even though he's in cover. And now he's flipped into the other Goblin that has Pounce instead, and you've set yourself behind a piece of terrain. That can be really rough, and it can cause lots of Green Goblin players to be sad about things. So be careful when grabbing cover. You still want to grab cover, and then also just like play Sacrifice well. You have to kind of play Green Goblin very well because he is, for a 4-threat leader, like a little bit underpowered. But both of the foes leaders are kind of like that. All right, moving on. Carnage. I did a whole video about Carnage and how good I think this character is. You can check out the video there. This is actually a companion video to that video that talks about the list that I play him in and how I've had so much success with it. But generally the cliff notes are that the character can do a lot of damage. He can compress a lot of damage into a single activation. The character can potentially make 5 attack actions in a turn, and God forbid one of those is Maximum Carnage, where he's attacking 2 to 3 characters with his AoE attack. He can just have huge blow-up plays. Now that being said, he is controllable. It's especially bad when someone can both control him and damage him. Things like Ultron 2 that can both attack his weak defense and move bodyguards out of the way, and has access to something like Dark Rain, which means that he's actually very likely to kill him, where his 8 hit points doesn't move him out of threat of being killed there, or something like Doctor Strange that both can attack his weak defense and controls him at the same time. But people that are just trying to kill him and just trying to control him can struggle to get there or end up spending too many resources trying to deal with this 4 threat. He plays all the tactics cards super well and is very good at killing people that have been chipped 1 or 2 damage. All right, so moving on from there, we're playing a Tricks and Traps package, or a trap house style game. We're not going like full whole hog. We're not like splashing something from outside of Spider Foes to complete the traps package. Like we're not splashing Cassandra Nova or splashing a bow model to try to like walk people through the traps. We're just playing the Foes traps package. So we're playing Electro here. Electro is not a super strong 4 threat, but he's very good into a bunch of the meta pieces. Specifically, Shang-Chi. He dumpsters Shang-Chi. It is very easy for a Shang-Chi to like charge a Electro and take 3 damage doing so. Electro's tricks and traps are electrostatic. Or is it Livewire? God, I get them confused. I believe Livewire. Livewire is his tricks and traps version. And it's 2 power. And instead of it being on crit wild, it's on hit crit, making it very, very likely to do 1 damage and coin flip to do 2 damage. Which means that like its damage output is just much higher. This is where most of Electro's damage comes from. The downside is that Electro is very weak into all of the damage reducing characters, as it essentially caps his trap damage at 1, and against reduced to 0 characters, it's like hardly worth triggering it at all because you're only coin flip to do 1 damage. So that can be good, but he's very good into things that have other defensive tech like Count Blanks. He's very strong into the Count Blanks characters, you know, like Cap 1's flip side, Cap 3's flip side, Black Panther, Shang-Chi, a lot of just like the Avengers models. He also has no way to move opponents' characters, and on his activation does not deal a ton of damage. He'll like put some shocks out and stuff, but does not deal a ton of damage, which means that he's not good at the King of the Hill scenarios. He is a pay-to-flip specialist because he's very good at like visiting 2 points and doing all of his damage. And so like being able to take those coin flip, like the coin flips on Kraan, or a single contested Empress is like a coin flip, or it's like a little bit better than a coin flip on Meteors. So he's like a specialist for pay to flips. I essentially don't play him if it's a King of the Hill scenario unless it's Spider Infected. This guy is very good at Spider Infected because the window in which Spider Infected activates is the power phase. And if you can leave someone low holding a Spider Infected and then it triggers on them and either Electro, Mysterio, or Goblin kills them in that window, they lose the activation for the whole round, even if they had priority. It can be tremendously swingy and just like game changing. So Electro, only pay to flips or Spider Infected. The character also just hates to hold extracts because when you use his mobility power, he drops his extracts, which I suppose is literally better than something like Speedster or On Your Left that just like is a superpower that doesn't exist on your card. If you're holding an extract, he at least gets to drop it and still use it. I've recently bumped into, I used to think Electro was like an absolute incredible monster on Intrusions, and I am just less certain that that's true. So like the idea is that he has synergy with the intrusion scenario because people that are going through the portals, you can damage them. But again, he like struggles with it, like his inability to affect the scenario. And you're also paying a lot of Electro's points for his mobility, which is somewhat dampened when every character kind of has that same mobility and you just kind of have to stand in the scrum. So I've been playing Electro less on Intrusions, but I still think this character is a very good meta call. Like if you know they're going to drop Shang-Chi, dropping Electro into Shang is fantastic. It's very, very good. He loves wrecking Shang-Chi. All right, our other trick and trap person is Mysterio. He's even more traps. He has the ability to he's the trapper that gets to both do traps and trigger traps on his activation with his Hypno Gas, where if he does a damage to you, he gets to walk you short, which can trigger Goblin, Electro, and himself. And Kraven, which we, may get to a little bit later. But so he can trigger all the traps. He is a trap. The weakness of Mysterio is that he is a very static model. He often can get refuse flanked. Usually this is solved by picking up an extract. And Mysterio is easily our most durable model to flop out on the midline. Like I guess you can argue Rhino. but you don't super want to do that to Rhino because you can just like hemorrhage power. You don't super want to do that with Rhino because Rhino can just hand your team a bunch of easy power access and let them unlock their kits. Whereas Mysterio is Def 5 stealth, so they always have to walk. They always have to punch your high defense, at least on turn 1. So he's much safer. And then he's just like not a lot of committing. There's a difference between committing like a 4 threat to the midline and committing a 3 threat to the midline. You do have to watch out that sometimes Mysterio can get boned by terrain because his ability to double walk to the midline is very tight. Now he has flight, so it's more about landing spots than it is about having to walk around terrain because he can go over all terrain. The other thing that Mysterio brings is the Grand Illusion. The Grand Illusion is an absolutely bananas card that lots of people try to fight through and do not understand the math of the card. But the card essentially makes your crits skulls. So it takes a die face away from them and hexes them, making them not explode their crits. It also, if you can play it while Mysterio is healthy, dazing Mysterio does not turn the card off because it's a tactics card and it's measured from him as long as he's on the table. So like a 1 health Mysterio that you might feel like, oh, I have to go with him or I'm going to lose his activation. It might just be better just to play the Grand Illusion, activate somebody else, and blow up the world. And then if they want to tap in Mysterio, he's still providing the Grand Illusion. Tips for the Grand Illusion is displacing Mysterio, especially with things that move him more than short, so that he can't just like trigger a Tricks and Traps to get back or just walk back. Things like walking in and Bill throwing him. Bill is kind of a perfect counter Mysterio because the Tricks and Traps has to do a damage to Bill, which to like let you walk away, which, you know, Bill can reduce to 0. So if Bill has 4 power, he can just like walk in. Mysterio's like goes down to like 30% to do 2 damage to him to get through the damage reduction. So Mysterio won't be able to escape the throw range. And then you just throw a medium away and like you get to have fun not dealing with the Grand Illusion. The other thing about the Grand Illusion is the Grand Illusion is technically a modified dice step thing. So it doesn't count your crits as skulls the way that like the reality gem counts skulls as crits. It's not a count as effect. The actual text of the Grand Illusion is your crits do not explode. And then in the third step of modified dice, where the attacker modifies defender's dice, or defensively, where defender modifies attacker's dice, you pick up the crits and you change them to skulls. So people like Zemo are uniquely good at getting around this because one of the things they can do is they can attack you. Oh no, I've got like hit, wild, crit. And you're like, oh, sick roll. And then you're like, oh wait, I'm in the Grand Illusion. It's actually only 3. I guess I'll just be done here. No, you can pick up those 2 crits and re-roll them because they're not modified to skulls yet. So keep that in mind when playing against the Grand Illusion. But that's Mysterio. Mysterio is one of my favorite characters in the entire game. He is just a really cool, really clever design. I kind of play him too much. Oh, the other important thing about Mysterio is, okay, so like Mysterio is very limited in his ability to rotate. What scenarios is it safe to play Mysterio on? Mysterio is probably best at Kraan, as odd as that is. It is the tightest pay to flip. It lets Mysterio, like, he can usually, like, walk punch anyone standing on a point if he is standing on the inside of Kraan. So usually you deploy you get your Mysterio going, you get him on the inside of Kraan. Now you have to be careful about threat ranges on turn 1. But you want to stand on the intersection of Kraan, and then you should be able to walk punch almost any other Kraan point. There's like a little bit of dead space on the diagonal one, but that gives him lots of say in that scenario. It's also tight enough that the Grand Illusion is very strong. Mysterio is also good at intrusions for the same reason, because he picks up a lot of mobility by like looking for power or going through the points. And when he misses, as long as he doesn't miss on a skull, he refunds the power and can just try again. So Mysterio is really good at those 2 scenarios. I've had success with him on Empress. Empress is like a little bit big for him. He can still do okay. It kind of depends on whether your opponent's going to come into you or you have to go over to them. This Spider Foes list plays best when it plays as a catcher's mitt, where they have to commit into you. So having priority and having control of the extracts, forcing them to commit to you is really important. or is your ideal way to play the game, and Mysterio just helps with that. Okay, moving on from Mysterio, we've got Kraven the Hunter. Kraven the Hunter is technically a Traps character because of Corner the Beast. Corner the Beast is a super strange ability. We'll get into that a little bit later. Kraven uses the foes cards very, very well. He is a very good user of both custom upgrades and Webhead plays you can do with Kraven. So Kraven's core mechanic is that if he stabs you with the kukri knife, the spear gets 3 extra dice, or if he advances and hits you with the spear, he gets to walk medium, and then the kukri knife has a wild elusive on it. So you can do things with Kraven when you splash in the cards, where you can like walk, use surprise Webhead, attack somebody with the kukri knife, and then use your second action to stab them with the spear and get all of the thing, get the extra dice and the movement because you walked. So the card can help deliver him. He is also a character that if they commit to you and they kill him, and he's very killable at 3/3/3, reroll 1, 10 health. So he's very dazable if you just do the 5 to def 3. But if they commit to him and they kill him in melee and then give you priority, there's good odds that kind of, like unless that character is particularly durable, that Kraven can wake up and go 5 die, 7 die, both with reroll 1 on it, or play custom upgrades and hit him with a 7 die, 9 die, and then you also have Expert Tracker to increase that by a further 1 depending on your power access to make it, you know, like either 6 die, 8 die, or 8 die, 10 die, and then you have Oscorp, so he can just be very, very deadly if he can start next to the character. And then he's also a very good character to play your Webhead turn during, because you can put the extra die on the character and then have everybody play the card on it, and everybody gets an extra die. He's also very good at holding extracts, like especially like your extract, like the whatever extract is safe, and good at pay to flips. And this is because of the spear's ability to walk him again. So like standing in like cover in a very safe spot, and then walking, doing a 4 die to someone, and then falling back to where you started in the safety and keeping the extract safe and being like, okay, I'm holding this secure, I'm holding this extract, I'm worth 2 points, and I'm still contributing a 4 die every turn from complete safety. And then if someone commits over here, I threaten to just kill them next turn, especially if they give me any kind of power or they end within 2 of me. So that's kind of the strength of him holding extracts. And then with pay to flips, because his punch gives him, or his spear thrust gives a medium move, he can kind of like pretty easily visit 2 points or 3 points, start on 1, you know, like walk medium, flip it, stab, walk medium, flip it. And then you can mix that in with Webhead if you just want the mobility to get an extra attack, which will give you an extra walk, is a trick that I've done before. And then my favorite thing about Kraven is Corner the Beast. Corner the Beast is a really weird ability that lots of people don't understand. So you pick a character, you pay 2 power, they lose Wall Crawler. If they make an advance or climb, they take 1 damage. Corner the Beast falls off at the end of their activation. So this lets you do really silly, really stupid stuff. So you can freely put this on already activated models and it will hang out across the turn line. So like Kraven leaves somebody on 1. Be like, okay, Corner the Beast. Right? If you want to take a walk action, you're dead. And you can gotcha people with that if you want, or you can watch them just like agonize and not activate a character that's going to be killed very easily next turn, because if they take a walk action, they die. Where I like this the best is in combination with Carnage. So if Kraven is finishing off something low, or is killing, or is dazing something, you put you're going to kill it, but you put Corner the Beast on it anyway, and then you daze it, which allows you next turn to more easily kill it, because they will wake up with Corner the Beast on them, because dazing also does not remove Corner the Beast. Corner the Beast is only removed after they activate. So this lets you combo it with all of your tricks and traps nonsense. You know, there's like Spider-Man's on 1 health. Kraven's puts Corner the Beast on Spider-Man, kill, and does his last hit point. The next turn, you can have Mysterio activate and attack Spider-Man. And Mysterio does like 1 damage and walks him for 1 damage, and then tricks and traps him for some amount of damage, and then attacks him for 1 damage, and then walks him again for another Corner of the Beast damage, and tricks and traps him again. Like, it can really add damage there. It can also help you finish off somebody with Carnage. So like, Kraven kills this model. It's within 4 of... he does the same thing where he like puts Corner of the Beast on them, dazes them. Carnage next turn activates, their character stood back up. You get to play Carnage Rules, which advances the opponent's model and gives him 1 damage, and a little bit of chip can go a long way for Carnage and his ability to actually put a model down permanently. So those are kind of the cool, cute Corner of the Beast tricks. So Kraven can kind of do the trap game, is also good at killing things that have been kind of close to finish off, or he can play safe and far back. So he's really versatile in that way. Okay, so moving on, we have Rhino. Rhino was for a very long time the best model in Foes. He's still quite good. Robbery's still good despite its huge nerf. It costs 4 power now, so it's a huge stack off Rhino. You do play Rhino less than you ever had before, whereas, rewind a year and Rhino was every single game for Foes. I think how Rhino has largely changed is you play him to Robbery after he dazes. So you like go in, try to kill stuff, try to like kind of scrum for scenario and fight and do what you can, and then you eventually lose that fight and you daze, and then when you stand back up, you look for a Robbery and get out, which I think is like a good way to play the character. He has big throws, so he can be good into the teams that like either want to throw big things or don't want things thrown at them. Things playing like Shang. He kind of does the Electro job, and like when you're playing a list that normally has Electro in it, but it's like not a good Electro scenario, you often just swap in Rhino, because Rhino is good at a lot of the things that Electro's not great at, but still while like threatening Shang-Chi, because throwing large buildings at Shang-Chi, like, yeah, he's going to brace the first one, but then brace is gone, and collision damage is a big way to deal with Shang's Count Blank's defense. Rhino is also very mobile. He can be very hard to deal with because of his size, and he's got damage reduction. Rhino's just a good all-around model, and he's very fast. Let's get into our splashes. So first we have our most cuttable splash of Namor. We're playing 5-threat Namor here. This is primarily for the safe grab. In theory, if you have priority on something like hammers or another midline 2 or 2 on the midline secure, you can put Sinister Traps on one and Namor can safe grab the other, forcing your opponent into you. The bubble is loved by all the 5-die attacks that are running around in Foes, so making that much more deadly, because nothing feels worse in Foes than like whiffing an attack and then not getting to use Oscorp because you didn't have any successes, so you can't even try to like push damage through with Oscorp. Namor is also literally capable of doing the traps because he has Octopus's Grasp, which pushes people. The problem is it doesn't really push the character you're dealing damage to, so it just kind of helps splash damage around, but can be cool. Can also be relevant if you're on an asset and you're worried about your opponent outscoring you. He's good into Asgard, which is one of our bad matchups because you can ignore the damage reduction stuff. So that's helpful there. That's why Namor is in my thing. I haven't played a ton of this character. I mostly play him at 17 and 20 because at 20 we're forced 6 wide unless you have a 5-threat. So like Namor can come in at 20 if I want to stay 5 wide and I'm worried about being too wide and like constantly having priority held over my head. And then at 17 we have to be 5 wide with a 2-threat, and that's not always good, but generally is the correct call, and Namor gives you some flexibility there, as well as keeping my opponent like not knowing exactly how wide I'm going to be. If you are looking to experiment with this roster, this would be the slot I would swap out for whatever your pet pick is. And I think there's lots of 5s that play that you can like kind of meme on with the tricks and traps. Like if you're just playing this for fun and you're not trying to like constantly win games and you just want to do as much tricks and traps as possible, pulling Namor here for like one of the bow 5 threats like Dracula or Ultron can be really fun. Or playing Cassandra Nova here for even more tricks and traps and then she can also walk people because she's like a 5-threat Mysterio. That can be fun, and you can do that. Let's get into the spicy sauce here. I'm playing Captain America Sam Wilson, the best 5-threat in the game. Boy, I don't have time to explain that joke. Anyway, the reason we're playing him is he can push people through traps. So all of a sudden, Sam can have a lot of extra output that people don't expect because both of his attacks move people, which can trigger Mysterio and Electro traps. Unfortunately, they can't trigger Goblin traps, but he can trigger the other two. So doing things like charging away from like a Shang-Chi so that you're outside of the count blanks, and then throwing shields at him and pushing him through Shang-Chi traps or through Electro traps can suddenly do lots and lots of damage. Also, sometimes the guy just like hits every wild and does 1 damage to everyone and like just pushes all of your opponents off of points. Also, because we're like 5-die attacks the faction, having a character that naturally ignores cover can be really helpful on Scoundrels. The other cute thing that Sam does is he can move the 2 traps models around with airlift. So generally, Sam is thought of as like not a great pick for foes because foes are all big boys. Well, now like 3 of the most played models in the faction, Carnage, Electro, and Mysterio, are all size 2 and all love help with mobility. So kept being able to like charge and airlift and move a trap into place and then push you through the trap feels really good. It's really cool, and it can help with his damage. Also, the math of shield throw with Oscorp is kind of wild. So if we look at it, a 4-die attack into Def 3 with Oscorp versus a 5-die attack into Def 3, the 4-die Oscorp attack is better at doing 1 damage and almost the same at doing 2 damage and almost the same at missing. So it just like almost directly just adds a die to his kit. Now it makes it like worse at spiking comparatively, but it's a buff that really benefits Sam because that first damage is so important to what he does. And being able to like him attacking a 3 def character is like 60% to do 1 damage, and taking it to 74 with Oscorp is a huge buff to how much impact this character can have in the game. As well as the game has a lot more lists that play like all size 2s or has like lots of size 2s for you to punch. Like APOC is playing a lot of size 2. So even though we can't like move Apocalypse, almost like a lot of the Apocalypse stuff that is popular is all size 2. It's like Colossus isn't, but all the rest are. I guess Wolverine literally isn't, but most people aren't playing Wolverine. But like you can bully all the other ones. Avengers is like Hulk and size 2s. X-Men is like splashes in size 2s and Colossus. So there's lots of like high tier stuff that is like size 2. And playing Sam here, I think, is like really good at that. And it's also just like a really fun way to play the game. And sometimes he just hits his wilds and wins you the game for you. All right, Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi is like the best 4th threat in the game. So he's very, very good. So that would be enough reason to play him. But also he synergizes what we're doing because he effortlessly pushes characters. And in the Shang-Chi on Shang-Chi fight, the one that has tricks and traps everywhere wins. Right? Shang-Chi being like, oh no, I missed you. I will push you out of range of you to throw me and through 2 tricks and traps. My no damage did 2 damage to you. Enjoy. Feels really good, is really cool. And then on his flip side, the Wild Goose, the trigger that like every Shang-Chi player forgets, the one where instead of throwing, so he has Dragon Chases his tail on the front, which is if you fail to damage me, I can throw you, which can trigger tricks and traps. And then on the backside, he has Wild Goose, which is pay 3 when you target me, and then I get to walk short and place you, which can trigger the traps and the Goblin throw. So you have to be very, very careful when attacking Shang-Chi in this list, as you can be put places you don't want, and you can suddenly take a ton of damage out of nowhere. Shang-Chi is very, very cool in the list. And I probably don't have to tell you that it's very strong. We're also playing the Shang-Chi card. We don't play it that often, but it can still be very, very good. I think Shang-Chi absolutely rips in this list. I think he's really good. And then lastly, we have our 2-threat, which is Bullseye. Because of the Bullseye nerf, I tried Nebula a bunch here, and Nebula caused major problems and was a reason I lost a bunch of games. And that's because when you really play your 2-threat at like 20 and 17, are like the two most common threats that you play your 2-threat at. And when playing Nebula with Goblin and Electro, so like Electro doesn't like to pick up extracts because to travel, he has to drop one. Goblin can't hold extracts on his backside, and now you're playing a 2-threat that also can't do extracts. Can just cause you that, like, once you lose one of your characters that can hold extracts, all of a sudden you're like, oh, my list only does damage. If I'm not winning attrition super hard, I lose. And so that's why Nebula was cut here. The reason to like play Nebula is that Nebula is most deadly in Goblin because, you know, like she has full rerolls, and then you reroll one of your dice. You can just let her hit super, super hard. And then I thought with like the Bullseye nerf that would like give her a slot in. She doesn't work in the list, in my opinion. So I'm playing Bullseye again. The Bullseye nerf is, I think, overblown a bit. You definitely feel it. Like the thing where he gets to like somebody is left on 2 health and Bullseye just gets to auto kill them. That happens way less because you have 2 less inches of range. The big place that you actually feel it is like when you're attacked by a range 3 character, you parting shot to safety. After you live, you don't get to 2-tap them. You have to like walk in and hit and run and shoot them or whatever because you've dipped out of their range. So the character has to stand kind of closer. He's a little bit more at risk because of that, but he still punishes low health models. He's still the best all-rounder too. There's maybe an argument that this could be towed to like have another kind of pseudo safe grab, but I think Bullseye does the job well enough that his upside I think is worthwhile. Oh, and also he's like randomly a trap too, kind of. So like characters that get left on 1 against this list have to be very careful about how they approach anything. They could take an auto damage from Bullseye. Maybe they have to like play around all the traps. So you just have to be like very careful on 1 hit point, and Bullseye helps play into that. All right, so those are the characters. Let's talk about Team Tactics cards real fast. Oh, look, Brace for Impact and Sacrifice. It's a Vince list. Wow. Wowee. Brace for Impact, best card in the game. Most played card in the game. The game is very throw heavy. Stopping throws is a big deal. Any kind of damage reduction would probably be the most taken card in the game. So, and Brace for Impact is the one that everyone has access to. Sacrifice, second best card in the game, because it's damage redirection, which, if played correctly, can be damage reduction. It gives you a ton of agency on the opponent's turn, and it's really important for delivering Carnage. And setting up the Carnage blowout, like take the first hit on Carnage, take like 5 or whatever, sacrifice the second one to Goblin, and then activate Carnage, kill something, full heal. They didn't accomplish anything. All right, the actual choices. We're playing Surprise Webhead. Surprise Webhead is an incredible card and is where a lot of Goblins or where foe's strength comes from. It's the weakest version of the Wakanda Forever Siege of Darkness style cards, but even the worst version of that is still incredible. Playing this card, be really aware of fallback or fallback style superpowers as they can blow out your ranges. So like don't play this card on Toad because he can slippery between attacks and then suddenly be out of range of the other attacks and they just fizzle. Same thing with fallback. This card can let you compress a lot of action into a single activation. And like when you play Siege of Darkness, you often like play Siege at the start of a turn, see what happens, and then decide what you activate. You don't do that as much in foes because of the 2 big activations that you like to do it on are Carnage and Kraven. If you think you might activate Kraven, you want to put the extra die out with Expert Tracker and then play the card. And then more likely you want to play it on Carnage's turn to have the biggest Carnage impact, but Carnage can only play Paint the Town Red, or can only activate Paint the Town Red on his turn. So you have to like declare it to be Carnage's activation, and then play Carnage Rules, and then play Surprise Webhead, and so that you can trigger Paint the Town. And then the card is also decent at just like fixing problems, or like, you know, like I left a character on 1 and like playing the card to prevent a enormous swing back from whatever, or actually take Hulk off the table before he activates, can be really, really good. The card's great. Custom upgrades is very strong on Kraven and Carnage, and okay on kind of everyone else. Like, you can maybe play it on Goblin, you can play it on some of the other foes, but it's very strong on Kraven because of the huge damage output that like stacking dice has. It's really good on Carnage because of, again, we're just trying to compress as much impact onto a Carnage activation as we can. Also, there'll be like weird corner cases where like you can play it, Carnage can play the card on the one physical attacker they have. Like, let's say, you know, like into like Guardians or something, that they're like all shooting you with energy attacks anyway. And then you play like custom upgrades on Bill. And every attack that they're shooting at you, you'd be attacking your def 1 anyway. So like -2 dice versus def 1 is still min def 1. So you actually have no negative, and then you just get to be def 7 against their physical attacker. And then there are things where like being def 3 is like good enough. Like if Carnage is fighting Hulk and Steve on a flank, and those are like the only two things that can punch him, playing custom upgrades on Hulk and being like, all right, I'm going to be, 7 attack dice into Hulk, 7 defense dice into Hulk, and then I'm only def 3 versus Steve, but Steve's not going to do 8 damage even into a def 3, can be really a good way to play that card. Playing Sinister Traps, I play this card almost never. It's essentially like on the play, and playing Namor is the only time we really do it. It's a space in the 5 issue. The card's okay. You have to be really careful about getting your stuff thrown into it. You really just use it to break parity on turn 1, and you have to be like absolutely certain that it will do that to play the card, because you are leaving very good cards at home now, as the space in the 5 is very tight. This is a Robbery we're playing. Card's still very good, even though it was heavily nerfed. You play it on the backside of Rhino largely now. Yeah, play the card when Rhino's on the table. The Grand Illusion, incredible offensive and defensive card. Very good on Intrusions and Kraan. Works even when Mysterio's dazed. We largely talked about this card when we talked about Mysterio. Try to set it up so that you can play the card and then activate someone who's not Mysterio, as Mysterio is rarely your highest impact piece on the top of a turn. Carnage Rules. I talked about Carnage Rules a ton in the Carnage video. It's another Carnage attack that can also trigger all the tricks and traps. Use it well there. It's a big reason why Carnage has so many weird, complicated lines. You can check out the Carnage video and learn more about it there. We're playing Chi Mastery because we're playing Shang-Chi. It's a stupid strong card that we almost never play because our 5 is so tight. It's often a choice between like Chi Mastery, Grand Illusion, custom upgrades, and Chi Mastery rarely wins in that. But still, it's obviously very, very good. The more likely they are to play like one big guy, the more likely we are to lean Chi Mastery. But it kind of depends on what the big guy is, because if the big guy's Mysterio, you're never landing the Chi Mastery on... Or sorry, not Mysterio. The big guy is Mephisto. You're never going to land the Chi Mastery on Mephisto. So you're better off bringing something like the Grand Illusion. And then we have Recal. Recal, in theory, is good here. It's never hit my 5. Maybe this should be Survival. But again, we're just so tight on cards that I'm not sure what to play in this slot, because it's competing with like some of the strongest character cards. Let's head this off at the pass, because I know like half of the comments are going to be, where's Well-Laid Plans? Why aren't you playing Well-Laid Plans? You said you had an open slot. Just play Doc Ock 1 and Well-Laid Plans. Well-Laid Plans is a trap of a card. This card is awful. Like, I understand that it's cool and thematic, but the card does not win games. It is 6 power off of 2 very power-hungry characters that also have great things to do with their power. Like, that 6 power can be 2 throws. And does this card do 2 throws worth of work and a tactics card worth on top? Like, and which card are you cutting to play this card? I wish Well-Laid Plans was good. It's not good. Please play the strong foes cards instead. All right. Let's wrap this up by talking about our crisis selections. We are playing Guardians save Shi'ar Empress in style. Kraan crystals get heroes home. Intrusions open across city as seals collapse. We've touched on these a little bit as we've gone through. Foes are much more of a pay-to-flip team because they have so many characters that can't change where you are, especially in my list. And even if they could, there's lots of King of the Hill teams that are better. And foes are strictly mid-range, that lean fighting. They're like a bruisery fighting team. So pay to flips are perfect for them. So we want to play Kraan and Guardians. And then we have a lot of synergy with intrusions between Kraven being able to like go through an intrusion point and then get his bouncing around thing, and like Mysterio traps and stuff like that. And like we want to fight in one big scrum, and intrusions is that. So those are our three. I could see you playing meteors here instead of intrusions, but we like the 18 plus threat more than we like 17, so that's why I've cut that one. For extracts, we're playing Spider Infected. Now, Spider Infected seems a little fast for foes, and it kind of can be, but because it synergizes so well with the traps that can kind of overcome it, you can get all this free damage, all these free damage triggers in the power phase between, like the tricks and traps and Corner of the Beast. And then we're playing Wedding Guests and Skrulls Infiltrate World Leadership. So we're definitely playing Skrulls. Skrulls can literally trigger traps, although it's not as common. It's mostly just a shape that both we get a safe grab that we can access, and it forces them to the midline where we can make turn 1 attacks and get value out of our leadership, and we like 20 threat. And then our last two to pick from are like Scientific Samples or Wedding Guests. I've ultimately settled on Wedding Guests because it means we don't have to flop ourselves out on the midline. And I've just gotten burned on samples a couple times. Like I've had some games where I had a specific tournament that I played in that I came it was a finals game that I came very, very close to winning. It was like Asgard with 4 hit points left. But part of the reason that I lost that game was there was a turn where I left Bill on like 2 hit points and I killed all the rest of his models. But Bill was able to hold a sample and stand on an intrusion point by himself, which scored 3 points because of the extra bonus point from samples. So I've just gotten like tempoed out by samples a couple times. But that being said, like foes love samples otherwise. Like we love the extra power. Every single character in this list is just so incredibly power hungry. So I don't know, it's kind of a toss-up between the two. They're both 17s, which is not ideal, but I think they're the two best for us. I played this list in 3 events. I went 3-1, 4-0, 2-1. I think this list is very, very competitive. I'm overall 10-2 with it in events. I think it's great. But you guys, let me know what you think of the list. If you have any questions, put them in the comments down below. And don't forget that fun is a finite resource.